Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Monster Families. Today we're going to be going over the zombie monster family, and we're going to be talking about the zombies, whether they make good revives, whether they make good monsters to kill, and what they can potentially drop. And let's get this started. So zombies, as you can clearly see on the screen, I currently have some zombies with me. Zombies are very interesting because, well, their AI is terrible. If they're actually known for having one of the worst AIs in the game, you'll actually see them often like lose interest in you for no reason and just start wandering off in random directions. They'll also sometimes randomly decide that they want to hit you. My experience with zombies is that their AI is very deliberately confusing because they tend to hit very hard. Problem is, though, is that a lot of the times they're confused about whether they actually want to hit you or not. And if you run away for a little bit, maybe come back, you'll notice that the zombies just have this odd tendency to. Video's not about you, fallen shaman, die. Just kind of wander. Like, they don't necessarily always attack you directly. When they do, well, they hit really hard. And it's something that I've always noticed about these guys is that although their AI is terrible, their damage output is actually pretty good. In some cases, they'll actually follow you all the way across the map, but they're very slow, of course, and well, it's not something that they can easily do. But as you can see, out of like the several zombies over there, only 2 of them have decided to actually chase me. And once they killed like the bone wall, all of a sudden they lost interest in me. The AI on these guys is definitely something interesting for sure. And if you listen closely, a lot of the times you'll actually hear them saying brains. They literally say brains. Now, the AI, of course, on these zombies is the same if you resurrect them. So if you resurrect them, they still often get in these weird scenarios where they just kind of wander off and do their own thing. As you can see, my revive just copies the horrible AI of the monster. Now, the zombies can actually be very powerful if you use them in telestomping, because you can kind of lock them in position, and it makes it more likely that their AI will actually do what it's supposed to do. But as revives, they tend to make very poor revives without telestomping because they have very poor lock-on. They literally just wander and do whatever the hell they want to do. Sometimes they will attack things for a little while, and then the really weird thing is that they'll just randomly disengage. And when they randomly disengage, they will, of course, lose their aggro for I don't know what reason. It's really quite odd. I've always felt like these guys were odd. I also have a lot of the times felt like they were kind of like deliberately doing that. Maybe the developers gave them a particularly strong attack specifically because they knew that people would get complacent around the horrible AI that was involved with them. And that way, when they actually do come up and hit you, they hurt really, really hard. Let's take a look at the panel real quick, and let's take a look at the various types of monsters, and we may go actually look at some of them. So, of course, the zombie, which is the most basic form, is the first one that you'll encounter in normal difficulty, and a very low-level monster at that. Super easy to kill. You can pretty much walk up and punch them. And, of course, they do go up in level and hell difficulty by the time they get there. They're around level 67. There's a lot of other zombies, though. There is the Hungry Dead. There are the ghouls, the plague bearers. Now, the plague bearers are rather unique because when they die, they actually spew poison, and we'll go take a look at those as well. And then there's the drowned carcasses, which I think primarily appear in Great Marsh, so you probably will never see them, to be perfectly honest. As for resistances, as you can see here in normal difficulty, hell difficulty, or a nightmare difficulty, they have no damage resistance. But in hell difficulty, pretty much everything, for the most part, gets a flat 50% damage reduction. So even in hell difficulty, they have that flat 50% physical damage reduction. This is something across the board that you have to get used to as a physical damage character, is that in normal difficulty and nightmare difficulty, they go very easy on you. There's no physical damage for the most part, damage reduction, and you don't have to really bypass anything. But once you get into hell difficulty, pretty much every single monster has 50% physical damage reduction, which you do have to watch out for. Magic resistance, they generally have none, except for the very special variant that is located in Act 2, and those actually are immune to magic. But that magic immunity does not apply to Holy Bolt, which is rather interesting, so it bypasses that entirely. It really only applies to Bone Spear and Blessed Hammer. Those are really the two main things that it applies to, as well as Bone Spirit, I guess. Um, their fire resistance is pretty much non-existent in most categories, except for the Ghoul, which for some reason is immune to fire, and the Drowned Carcass, which is also immune to fire, I guess because he's soaking wet. The zombie is immune to cold in hell difficulty, but none of the other zombies variants have any cold resistance whatsoever. And the hungry dead is always immune to lightning, but none of the other zombie variants have any lightning resistance either. Now, poison resistance, they all seem to have poison resistance, of course, because they're dead and they don't have hearts. Pumping blood and poison generally requires some type of circulatory system, so it kind of makes sense. And in hell difficulty, they all have 75% poison resistance. Their drain effectiveness is 100 in normal, 75 in nightmare difficulty, and 50% in hell. I'm kind of surprised that you can drain from them at all. Mr. Dusty wanted to go inside his hidey hole over here. And that's pretty much it. When it comes to these monsters, the variations are important because they do have very specific things that they accomplish. The ones in normal difficulty in Act 1 and Nightmare Act 1 and Hell Act 1, they're not really all that special. They don't really have a lot going for them except for the fact that they're immune to cold. Now, this does sometimes make Corpse Fire, which is the first elite one that you'll encounter, a little bit nasty because in hell difficulty he's always immune to cold, and then he can also be immune to physical if he manages to roll stone skin, which kind of puts him in an odd situation of being immune to two elements at the same time, which in the case of say like a hurricane druid, which deals physical and cold, you're kind of screwed. Now the zombies down here are one of the variants that will actually emit poison when killed. Let's see if we can get access to one of those zombie variants. Now, if you don't know this, every single area has 3 monster types. It's one of the reasons, it's one of the ways this game functions. So there are always 3 monster types total. And in this particular case, we have the archers. We also have the dried corpses. These dried corpses are the zombie types that basically emit poison. As you can see, they put a poison cloud on the ground, which as far as I'm aware is very, very, very similar, if not identical, to the Necromancer spell Poison Explosion, which basically just allows the monster to gain... let's see if I can actually do this. So it basically just makes this, right? So every single time they die, and if you happen to walk through it, well, you're going to get poisoned. They're one of the few monsters in the game that seem to have that ability, although it is not completely unique to them. There are other monsters that have the ability to poison things. The poison explosion that comes from those particular skeletons, or zombies rather, sorry, he's being a silly butt. Mr. Dusty's being silly today, and he's messing with me. He always tries to get into my shirt, and then he like bites he's trying to get like the edge of the collar, and he's trying to pull it up, which is very smart of him, that he knows that he needs to get the edge of the collar. However, sometimes when he goes to bite the edge of the collar, he bites me instead. So yes, and then yanks on my skin as if my skin is the collar, which is totally not the right way to do it. Now, the drowned ones are a special type of zombie that is essentially only present, as far as I'm aware, in Great Marsh. And most of the time, you're probably never going to fight these guys. They are the strongest variants of zombies in the game, having the best resistances as well as other things. Not to mention the fact that they're also surrounded by frickin' glomes here. And they're kind of nasty. They are kind of nasty because their resistances, their HP, their damage output. If you were trying to make a revive army out of zombies, which is probably not the best plan, the drowned ones would make better zombies than just about any of the other choices. And it looks like we don't have any zombies this time because we have the 3 types. What we're currently looking at is Bramble Hulks, Glooms, and Fallen. Or not Fallen, Fetishes. So if we go back in and we try it again, and this is something that you can do, by the way, if you want to cycle monster types. Like, say, for instance, you were doing Plains of Despair. And you're trying to kill Iswal, and you'd really rather prefer that there weren't Glooms in Plains of Despair. Well, you can keep re-rolling the monster types until you get the ones that you want. Now, as far as I'm aware, there is always Glooms in Great Marsh. Some areas have it locked. There is no way around it. So there are areas where no matter what you do, you will always end up with Glooms, and this is one of them. I think even when Glooms are not one of the 3 monster types, I think there are still Glooms here, which is pretty hilarious. Get the bog creatures. I can't remember if the bog creatures are unique or if they count as one of the 3 monster types. I don't know if they do. There's really nothing special to see about the drowned ones, though. In my personal opinion, they're not really anything special. The Bramble Hulks are much nastier than the drowned ones anyway. What say you, Mr. Dusty? Do you think the drowned ones are worth seeing? Let's go somewhere else first and see if that triggers the drowned ones. There we go. Now we have the drowned carcasses. So these are the drowned carcasses, and they're really not, like, super crazy. They do hit a lot harder than the zombies in Act 1. But other than that, they're still pretty much just zombies. They don't make the poison cloud when they die, and they're not immune to magic. So that's pretty much that. Now, the ones that are immune to magic primarily appear in Lost City. And you'll find that there is a super unique version, which is known as... I can't even remember his name right off the top of my head. But this is the immune to magic variant. As you can see, they are always immune to magic whenever you get here. And I will not be able to damage them with my bone spear, which is unfortunate. Now, the super unique is usually, if I remember correctly, usually near the entrance to the Lost City's ancient tunnels. And it's basically just kind of like a coincidence whenever you find him. He can sometimes be standing right on top of the doorway to the ancient tunnels, and sometimes he's not. He seems to always be located in one of the 2 cities nearby the general area where, like, the ancient tunnels is, but there's actually 2, so he's not always on the trapdoor for the ancient tunnels because there's another city that also happens to be nearby. So you basically just search both of the cities until you find him. As you can see, there's lots of zombies here in the Lost City, and I'm assuming it has to do with the fact that, of course, this is an old ancient city that was destroyed, and there's probably humans here, and they probably got all turned into zombies, and they tried to eat brains. They especially like chinchilla brains. They love chinchilla brains. Those are delicious brains. He was very entranced in what I was saying there for a second. Would you like chinchilla brains? Do you like brains? Would you like a treat? Hmm? Would you like a treatums? I gave you the treatums. What we got in here? Would you like a Cheez-It? Okay. That was a yes. I think that pretty much covers everything about the zombies. They are not exactly the most interesting monster type within the game. They're not really feared very much, although they will kill you if you're not like prepared for how much physical damage they can put out. It's one of the things about them in hell difficulty that surprises a lot of people is that they generally put out a huge amount of physical damage when they do decide to hit you. You know, if their AI actually functions properly and they actually come over and hit you, and you do get hit by one, you're going to feel it. They also tend to have a relatively large amount of hit points. As you can see in hell difficulty, they have 8,410 hit points at maximum for drowned carcasses, which of course is also going to be multiplied by other modifiers. So you're going to get things like the player count modifier, or if they're champions, and so forth and so on. And this can make them honestly just kind of like a pain in the butt to kill, especially for people who may be suffering on damage output. If you're in a higher player count and your damage isn't very good, especially if you are in hell difficulty where they finally get their 50% physical resistance across the board, they can be quite nasty in terms of their total hit point pool. It's one of the things that I generally just don't like about them in hell difficulty is that they're damage sponges, especially when you start adding in like modifiers. Like for instance, if you take their hit points at 8,410, right? And you add like 450% hit points, they're like 46,000 hit points. And this, of course, isn't even counting like champion modifiers, which I'm pretty sure with champion modifiers you can get like another 400%. So you're probably talking about like 8,410 plus like 850%, which brings them up to like 79,000 HP. It's pretty disgusting how much HP the zombies can have. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals joining me. Be sure to check out the next episode on Monster Families, and we're going to go over every single one. And as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching. Be sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button if you enjoy the content, and keep watching.